What is the mission of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, and its Quality Services Management Office? How can the concept of shared services be used to tackle cyber threats? And what are some of the key cyber threats facing federal agencies? I welcome my guest, Jim Sheire, Branch Chief of the Quality Services Management Office within CISA, to explore these questions and more. So within that context, could you tell us a little bit about the mission of the office you lead within the agency? How does it support the overall mission of CISA?
So our office is the Cybersecurity Quality Services Management Office. So QSMO is the acronym. And really our key mission is to be a single shared services office for managing cybersecurity solutions and shared services across the entire US civilian government. And our background is that we were designated the Cybersecurity QSMO by OMB in April 2020. So a fairly new office. And in fact, we were the first QSMO designated in a shared services area in government.
That's a great, I appreciate your response there. It's a great transition into my next question around your specific duties and responsibilities. Would you kind of give us an overview of those?
Certainly. So as the branch chief, I oversee all aspects of the QSMO. And that's really comprised of several key functions. So for starters, we manage the QSMO marketplace. So that's our storefront, our marketplace where agencies can find the cybersecurity shared services they need to help serve their missions and meets their mission needs. So that's really the key part. Through our governance role, we also work with other federal agencies that offer shared services. So the vision of the QSMOs is to serve as that governance entity that works with any agency offering services to another agency. So we partner with agencies like Department of Justice, Department of Transportation, vet those services against our standards and business requirements. And then when ready, we onboard them and bring them into our marketplace so they are more visible and can bring those to our agency customers. We also work closely with the standards area lead. So the CISA standards area lead actually a separate office independent of the QSMO and really work with them to develop our new service offerings. So that means identifying what our agency requirements are, what our underlying standards, such as those definitively owned by NIST, and looking at what are the different areas to meet critical gaps. And in our first year, that's been in our designated areas in vulnerability disclosure, protected DNS Revolver, and security operations. And then lastly, very importantly, we stood up a function that is focused on customer experience. So not only leading our customer engagements, but thinking holistically about how we enable that voice of customer. So getting the agency feedback on everything we do, taking that back to our service development and all aspects of the QSMO, and importantly, communicating with the agencies on how we took that feedback to improve.
So Jim, regarding your duties and responsibilities, what are the top 3 challenges, say, you face in your position, and how have you sought to address those challenges?
So, I would say a challenge and an area of focus has been really in customer focus. So how are we ensuring a customer experience where we are engaging our agencies on their unique mission and needs, their requirements, their gaps, and making sure that we take that feedback and incorporate it back into every element of the QSMO. And this was an area actually that our governance board and leadership in OMB gave us some great guidance on how to build that out and make sure we are making that voice of customer part of everything we do. So we established a formal customer experience function, and it leads our customer and stakeholder outreach. And one feature of that is we quickly established a customer advisory board. So it's comprised of 15 agencies, senior cyber leaders, and they give us key insights and guide us in everything we do, and to make sure that we are serving those agencies and their missions.
I was wondering, we talked about your office, your roles and responsibilities, but what about your strategic vision and your key objectives? Can you tell us more about both?
Well, the vision is really is better cybersecurity in government. So that's that key CISA vision. So we serve that vision by providing this marketplace of high quality cybersecurity shared services that allow agencies to mature in cyber with cost avoidance through that consistency and scale we bring in government-wide. So focusing on the entire civilian. So our key objectives usually center on, are we developing and bringing to the marketplace those services needed to address critical cyber gaps, They might include development of specific service areas as per overall policy and direction. I mentioned previously, we were prioritizing security operations, protective DNS in our first year. So there are objectives around that. So, but overall, I would say the framing is that vision of improved cyber and what we can do to bring the services to the agencies.
Jim, we talked about shared services. You mentioned shared services. For our audience, could you explain the concept of shared services?
At a high level, it is the notion that you share a service instead of building kind of unique mission-specific services or siloed services. And it's really a well-known concept at the enterprise level. So what are common services you can build to common requirements that serve an entire enterprise? And that way you get scale and consistency in the approach and especially, of course, cost avoidance when you procure and build at that larger scale. So really about consistency, better security in our case, and cost avoidance at those economies of scale.
Thank you, Jim. So would you tell us more about the Vulnerability Disclosure Platform, VDP? How does it coalesce into a centralized repository of potential vulnerabilities found on externally facing government systems? And how can federal agencies, leverage this platform?
So the origins of the Vulnerability Disclosure Platform, so VDP, our work there is actually work CISA did with a binding operational directive that really is aimed at having agencies leverage the great work done by the researcher community that analyzes for potential vulnerabilities on government's externally facing systems. And so the thought is about how can those researchers submit that information in a legal way to bring it to our attention so that we can then follow up and remediate if it's a problem or challenge. So the platform takes that first step. How can we provide the researchers and the agencies a central place to list all the systems that are in scope of the policy, look at provide the means for the researchers to submit their reports, do a bit of triaging on the reports, and then referring them on to the agencies. And so the value proposition here really is an improved experience for the researchers, for the agencies. It relieves them of work in standing up the public-facing platform on how researchers can submit reports. By providing triaging, it provides a bit of filter to make sure we're routing the most relevant reports on. And we found that really, by funding that and building it in one place, avoided the need to build over 100 separate portals, frankly. And so we saw a significant cost avoidance there as well. But importantly, the reports transmitted to the agencies then handle those so they intake them and analyze them further for potential remediation.
Jim, would you tell us more about the domain name system revolver service, the DNS Revolver Service? What functionalities are offered with this service, and how does it work?
So the protective DNS resolver, also known as a DNS firewall service, it neutralizes malicious DNS content used in cyber attacks, and it will use state-of-the-art DNS technologies and threat intelligence sources to secure that query traffic, and will block government query traffic from reaching malicious domains. In plain English, if you get a bad link that wants to send you to someplace bad, it stops it using kind of that best threat intel we have. And that is a very common vector often for folks following bad links and for a cybersecurity risk. So we want to address that. And funding it centrally at CISA enables us to build that and then work with agencies to direct their traffic.
Jim, how is your office collaborating with the private sector to mitigate cyber threats and secure government systems?
So our mission in the QSMO is really primarily focused on federal civilian government. So our services aimed at providing them with shared services offerings for them to improve their cyber maturity and mitigate those threats. So offering those to the private sector is not currently in our mission space. That being said, we want to leverage most recent innovative solutions, great products and services to help the government mitigate our threats. So I would say the collaboration, of course, comes in the acquisition space. So very often we turn to best-in-class commercial solutions to meet our needs. And so in the VDP instance, for example, there we procured a SaaS solution as our platform. a company called BugCrowd, and they will provide our platform as part of our service. So I would say primarily collaborating by leveraging through acquisitions, those solutions that meet our mission needs.
This has been the Business of Government Hour, a conversation with Jim Sheire, Branch Chief of the Quality Services Management Office at the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. Subscribe, download, and listen to the entire interview at Podcast One, iTunes, or on your favorite podcast app. And as always at businessofgovernment.org.